So you want to give us a note?
Me?
Oh, yeah, you're the music professional.
Yeah.
Oh, he has mute. What you got?
Stop it.
Okay.
You're the best.
I'm not cutting this.
She's not cutting it.
All right. Give you a note. We're doing a skirt. Skirt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that good range?
I love
it.
This is so fun.
So my skirt was right there.
1,
2, 3.
Skirts.
That was so beautiful.
Hey, you. You're tuned in to the Skirts Up Show with Samantha and Melissa.
Join our mission to normalize failure, but still uncover the positives at every twist and turn.
Skirts up. But keep your panties on.
What's up, Skirts Up Squad? It is Samantha.
And Melissa.
And we are back from Thanksgiving. I hope everyone had a great one.
That's true. That's true. Actually, I'm not a good liar. You guys are back from Thanksgiving. We're about to go to Thanksgiving.
Okay, if we're being honest.
I tried so hard to play along with it. I'm like, yeah, my great Thanksgiving was great, but
Okay, that's fair.
Anyway, how's prepping going for you?
I don't do a damn thing.
That's awesome.
Simon does it all.
Yeah, you said he's making the turkey this year, and
Yep. I don't gotta do a thing. Just sit there and look pretty.
well, that's nice because you're good at that.
Oh, thanks.
So I have a fail.
Let's hear it.
So it's not like a story of a specific fail. It's a feeling of feeling like a failure in life.
Mm-hmm.
I had a young girl come in here. I say young because I did think she was in her 20s. But she came into the shop and she was talking to me and she was so just sweet and kind. And through talking, one of the things I asked her and trying to get to know her was like, oh, well, did you go to school? Because she had mentioned she lived in another city. I'm like, oh, did you go to school there? She got really embarrassed. And she's like, I didn't go to college. And I was just like, what? First of all, I was like, because I remember feeling that way. That's what it brought back, is just huge feelings of like, because I went to school, but as we know, I went early, homeschool, yada, yada. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to be an art major. Dad did not like that idea. And I really wanted to please him. I did. He wasn't like putting down the kibosh saying you can't major in that, but it was a lot of, persuading and like, you really shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up changing my major. And because of that, I changed my major so many times and I went to so many different schools. I did graduate in a technical school at one point to be a dental lab technician. But one thing that I did in the very end was after I was married, I was 32. I went back. No, it was before I was married. Anyway, I went back to school, got my associates. Then I started my bachelor's. And at that point, I was like, okay, what I'll do is I'll be a teacher. Again, I was still trying to please my dad. He wanted me to be a teacher for years. Mostly because you could have your summers off with kids and you could be a good stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
I didn't have kids, but I was going to get married. And so I thought that's what I should do. Shoulds. It's always shoulds, right? So I was actually out in Texas and I was at the school that our guest that we're about to speak to went to.
Nice.
I got through all my practicums. I literally had one semester, my very last semester, right before I had to write my final thesis. I was going through a divorce. I was working 80 hours a week and going to school. I was working partially in town at a barn, and I was also nannying for a family that lived in Oklahoma in another state. So every weekend I would drive up there. So there was a lot going on, and I didn't have it in me, especially once the divorce started. I was like, I can't. And it was a mostly amicable divorce, okay? But emotionally, there was a lot going on in my life. So I ended up dropping out in my very last semester before I got my bachelor's. I still don't have it. And I was talking to this girl and I'd kind of told her that. And she's like, wow, thank you so much because look at you now. And I was just like, what? I'm still don't know who I am or what I'm doing. But she was like, no, you have I didn't say that to her. I was just thinking that. She's like, you have a store. You're back in the art field again. Like, look at you. It kind of came back to what you really, really wanted to do.
Aw.
So I thought that was amazing. I've always seen it myself as a bit of a failure in that way.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. And for someone else, and I hope I helped her, she said I gave her some, confidence and like, it's okay. Because what she had done is she had tried to go out to LA and become an actor. She's like, I tried to do the whole actor thing, but unless you want to do like really crazy shit or like, so basically sell your soul.
Yeah.
She's like, it wasn't for me. So I came back. And I think that she has, so like, as soon as I asked her, where'd you go to school? And she just got so embarrassed. I was like, yeah, that's a society question, I suppose. But
I never ask people where they go to school.
I'm so glad that you don't.
Because I didn't go to school. And so actually a lot of times when people are like, when women are like, oh, I don't feel like I can do anything, like I'm stuck at this job and there's really no up for me. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, I didn't go to school. And I'm like, okay, I've ran a vet clinic. I've ran a pet resort. I didn't go to school to be a technician, but I sure was a vet tech. Like, you don't have to.
You're right.
You just have to have the confidence to put yourself in the situation and see where it goes.
You're right. Because, I mean, sure, there are companies that require that bachelor's or master's or whatever.
That, like, you do have to have, like, if you're going to be a surgeon, obviously.
Sure. But you're right. Like, you don't have to, and it's not for everybody.
Like, even my sister, she decided she did go to school and get certified to be the CNA. She now hates her job. She's tired of it, and now she wants to be a mortician. And so
I knew somebody who wanted to do
really,
that. That's
now
hilarious.
she wants to be a mortician. And so
That
yet
makes me love
again,
her more.
she found a place that is going to train her and certify her without actual schooling. So it's like, once you just have an idea of something that you think you want to do, just do it.
Okay.
Like, just try.
I agree with you. I feel like we just have too many people telling us how life should look.
And no one's going to hire you if you're not an educated individual.
Yeah. So I just want to throw out like, hey, honestly, in the end, for me, it came full circle. I'm not an artist, but I am an artist.
Yeah.
And this is fabric arts. So it's like, just kind of play with things. Play with what you enjoy.
And it's actually kind of funny that you told this story, and this is not where I was going to go, but Simon and I were on a date the other day. And I went on this tangent about how I think the school system isn't where it should be.
Yes.
And that it's not setting kids up to succeed in life and to know what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to be, and just how to find themselves.
They're teaching kids to tests instead of teaching the kids.
Yeah.
Because lots of reasons, but okay.
And so we're at the restaurant and I'm going on this tangent. And so Simon stopped our waitress and he was like, can you sit down with us? Like, I got a question. I was like, oh, dear God, where are you going with this? And so she sits down and he was like, have you been to school? And she was like, no, I don't want to go into school until I know what I want to do. And I don't know what I want to do. And so he was like, okay, well, why do you feel like school has to be to find out what you want to do? And she was like, well, I don't know, but I know I don't want to waste the money to figure out what I want to do. And he was like, myself and my friend went to school, realized that what we were in school for isn't what we wanted, dropped out, and neither of us are in the field that we went to school for, and didn't go back to school. And we make great money.
Yeah. Right.
And so she was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's so crazy that we both had that experience this week.
Oh, yeah. That is interesting.
How did you feel when you ended the conversation with her and watching their reaction?
My tangent about school ended up turning into you don't need school to be successful and blah, blah, blah. I was like, school doesn't teach you how to... Well, and then I went into my tangent about how Logan just had a project that I had to do when I was in middle school. And I think the project is really fucking backwards, because the project is you create a town, you decide where geographically it is, you decide what kind of government they have, you decide what the minimum wage is and how, like, the prominent jobs and stuff. That doesn't fucking make sense to me, because if the project was, here is a town in this area, this is the minimum wage.
These are their parameters.
These are the jobs. And this is how much living cost, groceries cost. Tell us how you live. Like,
Yes.
and like the town is already broken up into like divisions, you know, like financial divisions, like, you know, oh, the people who make more money live here and stuff. So like giving them all the parameters and saying, now live.
And like think outside the box. Like, what about the person across town? What about the person who has this? Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So then you're learning how to think about budgeting.
Critical
and
thinking.
Yeah.
Not just
like it's making up imaginary stuff. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Right? Yeah, of course my town's amazing. Everyone makes $15 an hour minimum wage. And everybody's like so happy on the weekends and playing in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So,
But yeah, I don't even think I need to go into a fail.
I think that's, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I like it. So let's get into the guests that we have with us today.
That's right. Let's do this.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, okay, let me just kind of introduce Brad.
Yeah,
we have been friends for a long time,
Yeah.
right? And I remember you used to sit down and play the guitar for us in the living room when I lived back in Texas. You were in a band at one point. Now you've actually gone to school and graduated as a musical therapist. Can you tell us a little bit about your history, where you came from, and what you got you kind of like into that?
Yeah, sure. All right. So my name's Brad. I was born in Seattle. That's where we started. So I'm from the Grunge City. This will come in play later.
Okay.
My parents were missionaries. So when I was 4, we moved to Austria, and we just kind of traveled around the country every few years, and we'd start new churches, communities, and do some outreach work and stuff like that. And my mom was always the music minister for all of the work that we did. So I was always kind of musically influenced. My mom and her brothers actually had a band or a group growing up when they were kids. They were called 3 Hits and a Miss.
That's adorable.
Yeah. She had 3 brothers and her.
3 brothers. Okay, got it. Okay, that's adorable.
Yeah.
That is so fun.
So,
Now, just a second. When you say that your parents were missionaries, were you guys part of the same type of church? No. Okay.
no, we were Baptist missionaries. We worked for a separate organization called the Foreign Mission Board. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I didn't know that you guys like actually went around and started churches in new cities. So you like not just lived in Austria, but you moved a lot in Austria itself. Like, was it hard to find roots when you were over there, or did you feel pretty?
It was, yeah, because it was usually about 3 to 4 years we would move somebody somewhere else, and it just, mentally speaking, from a timeline, like I was 4 when we went there, so like that's a big pivotal point in your
True.
childhood. And when we came back, I was 16, so it was rough moving around, leaving friends, getting new friends. It was a constant transition, so it was a little bit difficult, and kind of followed me into adulthood. Like I had to have this habit of moving around, starting over.
I did too. Yeah.
Same. Let's look at us little trio.
I know.
Right.
So 3 hits and a miss.
3 hits and a miss. So yeah, I grew up kind of musically.
Did she play an instrument?
Yeah, she plays the piano, and that's what she started me off with as a kid. I didn't like it. I still don't like it.
So is your mom the one who got you into instruments?
She wanted me to get into the piano. I'm not exactly sure how this one happened, but I also played violin when I was a kid, and I ended up going to a music school for about a year. Yeah, it wasn't a very good fit. And like we were in Austria, we had a reputation. So, first off, when we got there, we were the missionaries. They were Baptist missionaries, and it's predominantly Catholic over there. So they weren't quite fond of us being there. So we got a little bullied here and there. Nothing like too bad, but it was you could kind of tell they were like, eh. But over there, their disciplinary actions in school are far different than they are here in America. So we got disciplined one day for doing something stupid, I'm sure. And my mom came into this meeting with a teacher, and it turned into a fight. Like this is probably the first time and the last time I ever heard my mom yell at somebody, and she got really mad.
Wow.
And so then that reputation also followed us. So it was just like this double whammy.
And she's not even like an angry person.
Yeah, she's the sweetest person you'll ever meet. And like, we would get into fights as a teenager, and like I'd run away and she'd be in her car and somehow find me, and she's like, I just got donuts. You want some donuts? I'm like, Yeah, I do. You know?
But they're like, there's this angry Baptist missionary.
Yes, yeah, that was my dad.
She'll chase you down for donuts.
That's right. You will have sweets. But yeah, so it was really sweet.
No pun intended.
Yeah. It was a very interesting upbringing. So, but yeah, I quit the violin. I'll dabble with it every once in a while here and then. But
so, what was school like?
School was rough. I in general struggled through school a lot. I later had an ADHD diagnosis at 16. So growing up, I had a lot of tutors. Just a lot of people trying to help me to get through it, and I did barely.
Yeah.
And that was over in Austria, also here?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Okay.
Things got better when I got my ADHD diagnosis. When I was probably about 13 when I discovered the guitar. We always had some kind of instrumental laying around the house. So I picked it up, and I remember the first song I ever played. I found out I have this uncanny talent, I guess you could say, to just listen to something and be able to play it back. And it's like, oh, so that's how I taught myself how to play the guitar. I'd turn on the radio and be like, ooh, that sounds cool. So I would start matching it, note for note, figure out the chords. And so I taught myself. But the first song I taught myself how to play was To Be With You by Mr. Big. You know that one?
What? No, you have to sing it now.
To be with something like that, yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's old school too.
I remember that. Big in the 90s.
Yeah. So that was my first song, and after that, I was hooked. So
okay, that
was kind of my first introduction to other music. We listened to a lot of church music and Barbra Streisand, Sandy Patty, things like that. Very
totally,
uplifting things. And when the '90s came, grunge happened, and I was like, whoa. I remember my brother bringing home a Nirvana tape, and I was just like,
oh yeah,
mine just went. Poof. It was like, this. So that was kind of the.
Were your parents strict about letting you listen to outside music like that?
They were. Yeah, absolutely.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I remember going to my friend's house and listening to Nirvana on her tape deck.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a CD. I'm sure several CDs have gone missing because of this, but one of the CDs was Extreme. The album was called Porno Graffiti. There was nothing really inherently pornographic about it, but the name porno was on it. So my dad stole it,
Threw it in the trash.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, you guys are so bad.
There's a lot of things if you see us oh, you can't listen to this, but yeah.
Yeah, we were so edgy, huh? Apparently.
Yeah.
Wild.
You guys make me look like a saint.
So, okay.
All right. So when we were interviewing you before, you had told us a story, and I thought it was hilarious because it would not fly nowadays.
I don't think so either.
Can you tell us about the experience you had in school when you learned about the harmonica?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yes. So another early influence of mine was the blues. I love the blues. B.B. King's one of my idols.
And where did you live at this point?
We had just come back to America. Okay. I don't actually know how this happened because I think my grandparents and somebody else would come to me with CDs and this is how I got into jazz. But she says, here's a Thelonious Monk album. I know you love Thelonious Monk. And I had no idea what that was. But I was I didn't want to be rude. So I was yeah, I love Thelonious.
Wait, it's a person? It's not monks singing?
No, it's Thelonious Monk. He's a jazz pianist.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Okay. I will open my...
He's not one of the, top mainstream people. So, but yeah, I listened to it and it turns out I was I do love this. So, but I also kind of discovered B.B. King that way. So I love the blues. And I was gifted a harmonica one year for a birthday or Christmas or something like that. And again, I kind of taught myself how to play and I loved it. I carried it with me everywhere. And my senior year, I had a bunch of blow off classes. One of them was ROTC. So we're in this annex building from the school. And it was the last class of the day. Most people had gone. And I'm walking down this hallway playing my harmonica, just like a movie. And just, and I see this guy just poke his head out of one of the rooms. And he's, I don't know, 40s, maybe 50s. And he just looks out and he goes, "Is that you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You like the blues?" I said, "Yeah, I love the blues." He goes, "Me too." And so we just kind of started talking about blues. He's like, I like this guy, I like this guy. And like, I just taught myself how to play. He's like, I also play guitar. And he goes, oh, I do too. I have a lot of guitar. And he just goes, hey, do you want to come up here like on a Saturday and just have a jam session? And I was like, yeah.
Here, little boy, you want some candy?
Essentially the equivalent.
I have a lot of guitars in my van. Why don't you check them out?
Oh my god.
It was amazing. Like, his name was Jerry. I loved him. We got along great. And like, it was.
And he was clean.
He was clean. Like, he had a rough past too. He went through a divorce and he was always telling me about all these things. He's like, I lost this and that. But like, it was typical like makings of a blues movie or song. As it was like,
that is adorable.
Divorce. But yeah.
The two lost souls from different walks of life jamming out.
It was.
I just love it.
Yeah.
Did your parents like know you were going to meet up with an older guy?
I never told anybody.
Until just now?
Yeah. Now the truth comes out. Hi, Mom. Sorry.
Oh my god, I feel so special.
That's the best. That's the best. That's what we do. We try to get those deep confessions out.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think our parents have gotten some confessionals. Huh?
Yeah, that's true, actually.
I love it.
Sam's like, Mom, so sorry if you're listening. Oh, yeah, and Hannah.
Oh, yeah. There's been an episode where I was like, Mom, tone out. Sister and I are coming out.
So that's awesome. So music always played a part in your life, which is...
Yeah.
Always has.
And what brought us together is that to us, you found a unique path of musical therapy.
Yeah. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I've always struggled in school. So, my parents were very conservative as far as like your, life choices and trajectory. So as soon as I graduated from high school, they said, okay, you're going to college, go right now. Like, we had a scholarship to Dallas Baptist University because my parents were missionaries and he was a pastor at the time. And so it was not even a question. He's like, you're going. So I went and I failed absolutely miserably. Like, every class I had, I failed it. And I just had this overwhelming, I guess, need to go back to school because I was like, that's what you do. You don't question it. So I went to community college after community college and I kept failing and failing and failing and failing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of went through life, like trying to figure out what I could do without a degree. In the back of my mind, like when I was going to college or attempting to go to college, I kind of always had this feeling like I need to help people. I want to help people. I think then at that time, I was just like, there's something in my past that was really rough. I don't want other people to go through it. So that's kind of why I want to see if I can give back. But I was young and I didn't exactly know what that looked like or, how to do it or anything like that. So I just kind of made my own way. Like I've chased the band dream for a while. I was in a few bands for years. I eventually quit.
Grunge bands? Grunge?
Grunge, some grunge. Yeah. It was like,
Okay,
I think the first gigging band we had was kind of a grunge band. It was like an indie grunge kind of a band. We had like a little pop punk band. Band. Yeah, it was very varied across the genres. So, but we just had fun. But eventually, just kind of got burnt out on that because it's hard. You get a lot of people that are in bands and they're very dedicated to their work, and they say, like, we're going to go all the way, we're going to make it, no matter what. And so, for me, I thought it would be really amazing to be able to reach that success, but also it was very draining. And like, if you didn't like walk the walk, talk the talk 100% of the time, you weren't doing your job, and it just kind of took the fun out of it. So I knew I wanted to stay in music. I became an audio engineer for a while. Kind of got burnt out on that too.
Tell us, what does an audio engineer do exactly?
You just run sound, like the guy that runs the sound booth at the concerts. Like there's always
concerts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I worked for a production company, and we did a lot of weddings, a lot of corporate events and things like that. And it was a blast, but it's always late nights, Okay. We did play at Trees, which is where Nirvana played, which is my massive dream. It's a small club in Deep Ellum. And I was just like, oh, we made it. Right. In my mind, I was
That's
like, oh my God,
amazing.
Kurt stood here. It's incredible.
I got my first tattoo in Deep Ellum.
Did you? Yeah.
I didn't know Kurt Cobain was down there.
He was.
One day.
Very famous. You can YouTube it. Like, this is a very famous Nirvana moment where like he and the sound guy get into a fight and like they beat each other up. It was a massive thing. But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Wow.
my ADHD squirrel just went. I forgot where.
Sound
So the sound
tech.
Yeah, sound tech engineer. So yeah,
you lost interest in that.
right. Lost a cut burner on that. So yeah, I became a photographer for a while.
Really good.
Oh, thank you.
He did it well, obviously professionally.
Yeah, I always try to pursue my passions, whatever those are. I just do better. But
it's crazy because
it's literally what we were just talking about.
I did not know that's the
that was what I was wondering if you knew exactly what he was about to say.
So we just did our intro for this episode, and it was all about kind of
you don't have to go to school to be successful,
following your passion, and anyway, so
yeah, it was really funny that
I didn't know it was going to take this turn.
Yeah.
We're gonna take some turns today. It's gonna be awesome.
All right.
So yeah, I did that for a while, and I kind of hit a point in my life where I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I want to be, I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I want like a good life. Like, we're making money and paying the bills, but like, I always had this dream of I want more, And so I tried little things here and there, and just nothing was working out. So I went back to working in a warehouse as an audio visual warehouse. And because I had talked to a guy. This is a fun story. So for a very, very hot minute, I sold insurance, cancer policies. It was door to door, which I didn't know at the time. I should have known, but I did not do well at all. That's not at all like my area of expertise in any way. So
I mean, it's freaking just rejection all day.
It was rejection, and it really hit me hard, and like I didn't sell a single thing. So I was beat. I was down. They had a thing. It's kind of like Spirit Week, where they go to some small town in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, "You're going to sell more than you ever have." And I didn't sell anything. And so on my way back, I was just distraught. I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I feel like such a failure. And they always said, if there's sun's up, you're knocking on doors. So I was on my way home. I was south of Fort Worth somewhere. I was driving through somewhere. I was like, you know what? There's sunlight. I'm going to give it one last go. So I started knocking on homes, and I walked house, and this where this garage is open, this guy is sitting in there, and he's like, "Hey, what are you selling?" I was like, "Here's my shot," So I go in, and I was like, "Let me tell you something." I was like, "Here, we got this deal, right?" And so I'm still doing the pitch, and he's just looking at me. He goes, "Do you like what you do?" And I, of course, give him like this whole speech. I was like, "Of course, pays the bills, American dream, blah blah blah," right? He goes, "Cut this shit, man." He goes, "Do you like what you do?" And I was like, no, I don't. And so he like takes me around his garage, and he's like, "Let me show you some stuff." And he pulls this blanket back, and there's this like Harley Davidson motorcycle and like this picture frame of him and the Hells Angels. He was like, "I used to be a Hells Angels, like part of the Hells Angels." And I was like, "Oh, this is where this ends." Okay. But I was just like shocked. I was like, "What do I do? What do I say?" No, I'm like, but he was super nice. He like gave me a beer, and he's like, we dropped around the house, and he's like, "You see that? I'm gonna like that's my old 57 Chevy, whatever. I'm building that up." And he goes, "I worked for all of this." He goes, "I got out of the Hells Angels, and you don't just walk out of the Hells Angels with all of your stuff." He's like, "I had to work for it. Like I had to do, like I paid my tolls." He's like, "I've got 5 kids, like 3 different moms. But he was like, I take care of all my children." He's like, "I'm not just talking child support." He's like, "If they need food, I go to their house. I take them to the store. I take them to the store to clothe them. Like I'm at every sports event." He's like, "I'm there." And like, he just goes through this thing, and he's just like, "You need to get a real fucking job."
Wow.
And he goes, "I work at this concrete plant." And he goes, "Work your way up." And he's like, "Come up, you're going to be sweeping floors, but you work your way up, and you can be somebody someday." And he's like, just get a real job and take care of your family." And I was like, wow. And so that just really hit home. So that's how I ended up in the warehouse. And
nice.
I was there for about a year.
I didn't know that. I remember the little insurance stint, but
yeah,
okay. What a life-changing moment.
I know. So that really kind of set me on a better path. But yeah, so I was working in this warehouse, and I still, I wasn't happy. I'm like, ended up being a really good decision because COVID hit about a year or two after that. And so that company pretty much just went away. But I remember sitting on my lunch break one day on a computer and just going, I need to I'm just not happy. I need to find something. So I started Googling like artistic jobs, that pay and and like music therapy pops up. And I didn't even need to know what it was or hadn't any clue what it was. I was just like, that's it. That's what I got to do.
Done.
And so I started Googling about it and learning more about it. And so I was like, all right. So I started looking into schools, and I found Texas Women's University. I had enrolled, and from there on in, it just kind of took off. So,
okay. tell us what a musical therapist does. I was reading a little bit trying to see, and it sounds like there's 4 different types of musical therapy.
4 different types. Okay.
Yes. Tell me if I'm, this is all my really good knowledge off the internet.
All right. Dr. Google.
So compositional.
Okay.
Improvisational. Receptive.
Mm-hmm.
And recreative. Does those ring a bell?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
those are 4.
tell us.
Yeah, those are the 4 kind of like methods of what a music therapy does, and it can be used in any kind of modality and any kind of population. So, music therapy is basically it's an evidence-based practice that uses musical means to achieve therapeutic goals. So, you can take any kind of your traditional therapies, whatever they are, and just put music into it basically to achieve what you want to achieve. So talk therapy would use talk to kind of get to some of the mental health issues that people are struggling with. With a music therapist, we just use music, and that can look like we do a lot of like lyric analysis. We'll play a song to see if, something will hit home with patients, and they'll be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I'm trying to say, because some people just struggle with trying to express themselves with their own words, but they hear a song and they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. That's it.
So is this when you sit down with your musical therapist and then maybe the therapist would typically ask, is there a song this week that's been stuck in your head? And then you just kind of analyze the aspects of that song to kind of see why that's the song that's been speaking to you that week? Kind
of, that too. Yeah. Part of the music therapist's job is to kind of seek out that music and be like, because we'll start with conversation and be like, tell me what you're like struggling with. What are your goals? Like, give me some background, some of your past. This is an area where I really absolutely love this kind of work because like I kind of pride myself in being like, oh, I know a lot of music, So I'll try to find songs and it's hit and miss. Like sometimes you bring up a song and they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try different. And sometimes it does hit. An example, I went to an internship in Logan, Utah, and worked for a private practice. And it was a very broad practice. Like we had everything from like hospice patients to working with autistic kids. We had a sexual addictions group. We worked in nursing homes.
Oh wow! What was the practice? It was a musical therapy practice.
Yeah, it was called Overly Musical. Yeah, Heather Overly. She was amazing. At the time she had one other employee, and like there's always 2 interns. There was like a junior and a senior intern.
Okay.
So a fun story that I love to tell was when we were in their sexual addictions group, and we had this one patient that I just could not get through with. He did not want to be there, and he was just constantly grumpy. So we do these, exercises and like these interventions, and nothing was ever hitting home with him. And so one day I was like, maybe we'll just have a jam session. We'll just have a drum circle, right? So we bring all these percussion instruments and
go get Jerry.
Yeah, look at Jerry. So I start leading it, right? And I'm like playing. I was like, all right, here's the rules. Like you have to play with me. You have to switch out your instruments at least twice, all these things. Okay. And so I'm watching the participants and like seeing how they're feeling, like if I can get any feedback from them, like if they're opening up. We try to look like at their body language, if they're getting into it, like if they're holding back, we just kind of gauge how they're feeling based on what they're showing us. And like I'd switch out an instrument and then like this guy would switch out. He kept going and I was unsure about like how it was going because I couldn't quite read him. And he was like, oh. And then so afterwards, when we're done, I said, all right, how was that? And like, give me some feedback. How do you guys feel about what happened? He just goes, that sucked. I was like, okay, that's valid. Yeah, this is cool. That's all right.
Shoot.
Speak your mind, please. Like, this is what we're here for.
Okay. Okay.
So my internship director later told me, she's like, every time you switched an instrument and he had to, he just goes, I was like, he just wanted it to end. I was like, okay, so that wasn't it. The following week, I brought in this song. The song was Little Hell by City and Color. Excellent song. Check it out.
Okay.
It talks about relationships and how it can be difficult because the person, from his perspective, he talks about, he's like, I have addictions. It's going to be hard, but I'm like doing my best, and I wish we could go back to a time where everything was harmonious and beautiful. So I play that song And I was like, how did everybody feel about that? Like, let's talk about the lyrics. What lyrics stood out to you? And like one guy over here was crying, like some other people were like contemplative. And the guy that I was trying to get through didn't say anything. He just kind of like sat there and was like, So I was like, okay, don't know how that went. And then the next session we come in and we're talking and he's super quiet. He's not saying a word. And I look at him and I was like, do you have anything to say? And he just kind of sits there for a minute and he pulls out this binder and he goes, I wrote some poems. I want to read them to you. And I was like, oh,
what?
Amazing. Yeah. So he reads this like song or a poem and it was just beautiful. Like he just poured his heart out on this paper. And I was like, that's incredible. Thank you so much. And he goes, I've got another one. And he read like 304. I was like, that's it. I was like, this is what we're looking for. This is what we need. This is beautiful. So
that's beautiful.
And he ended up discharging like a couple of weeks away later. So he ended up making some progress and like hitting all of his markers or whatever he needed to hit to get out. So yeah, he ended up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that has to feel good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really great success story.
Yeah. So, because that's actually interesting, because I was wondering too, like one of my questions was, how do you know what method to use for your patients? Like, how do you analyze them and decide this is what I think will work for them? But it sounds like
trial and error,
maybe.
A lot of trial and error. Yeah. It just kind of depends on who you're working with. Like it's such a broad practice. Like we work a lot with people who have like physical disabilities, like people with Parkinson's, speech therapists. We work with speech therapists a lot. So the cool thing about the brain,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. The music therapy, it a lot of times it's for people who aren't able to be very vocal.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had told us about you were able to give people an instrument and assign them to like family members, and so they wouldn't even have to talk about how they feel about people.
Yeah.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. That was that same group. Yeah. So instead of using words, since people have difficulties expressing themselves that way, they can also express themselves musically. And the great thing about
like sometimes we don't know how we're feeling.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta jam it out on a drum or something like that. Like I'm a huge believer of free flow. Like just let your body speak, like move around, make noises, do whatever it is you need to do to kind of flesh out whatever is inside. But yeah, that intervention that you're talking about is called a family dynamic. So we would bring up percussion instruments, and we would have somebody be the leader and be like, choose an instrument that represents you best, and then play it in that style. Like recreate yourself with this instrument. And then they had to give instruments to other participants and say, okay, you're going to play my dad. You're going to play my mom. Mom sounds like this. Dad sounds like this. Brother sounds like this. And so you have this orchestra of basically just noise, but like it's a cacophony. Yeah. Like it's still musical though. Like it's all subjective. So they have this loud thing going on. Everything's like banging and just rattling and all this other stuff. And so then we can discuss about it. It's like, well, what did that sound like? How did that feel? Was that, how did everybody else feel? Does anybody else have insight on, how this made them feel? So we kind of discuss it that way. And then after that, we kind of flip the tables and say, okay, I want you to play yourself with whatever instruments you choose in the way that you would like to hear yourself. So, yeah. And then they do the same thing. They hand out the instruments and say, Dad, this is you. This is how I want you to sound. Mom, this is how I want you to sound, brother, all this. And so they get to orchestrate this. They lead the session of cacophonous noises and just say, this is how I would like my life to sound. This is how I want my family dynamics to be. So they can kind of work through how they're feeling and what they want out of their relationship. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of gives them a goal to be like, okay, I know what I want you to sound like, so then they can start setting boundaries and be like, this is what I want from you. This is what I need from you.
It's like a way they can kind of begin to take control. Like even because you can't control something if you don't know
what you want out of it.
Exactly.
Does it end up sounding like harmony when they give people, when they assign an instrument of how they want the family dynamic to sound? Does it like ever sound
harmonious?
Harmonious.
Yes. Thank you.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes we're inherently musical beings. So we have, even if we don't have any like musical skills, we we kind of like, I don't know, gravitate towards each other in that. So like you go long enough in a drum circle or whatever, like you start to kind of connect and things will start to like mesh together and work together.
Oh, that reminds me of the other story you were telling us
With the
about.
humming?
The drum circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It wasn't drums. It was humming.
It was humming.
Yeah.
So we did this exercise when I was at college. She was my vocal professor, and she would always try to lead the class in some kind of like relaxing kind of a meditation before we started. So she said, all right, I'm going to start humming a note. And she's like, I just want you to like close your eyes, focus on the humming, and like, I'll give you direction as we go along. So she just kind of started humming. She's like, like specific. And then she says, all right, I want you guys to come in at your own volume, come in at your own pitch, however you feel like you need to hum, just start to hum. So when it began, it was like this room full of just like odd like humming, and like it was just kind of all over the place. And she kind of guided us, and she's like, all right, let's try to sway with your humming, like go up and down, practice, like experience like how loud, how quiet. And so everybody was just kind of doing it. So we had this ocean of just like craziness, like they were in a storm. And like after a little bit, without trying, everything just kind of came together, and it was like this beautiful swaying of like waves, this ocean of
I'm getting
humming.
chills.
And it was so great, and we felt just so incredibly like connected, and everybody was just there as we were like one, and it was just this beautiful feeling. Like it was amazing.
It sounds like a share of energy with everyone in the room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me grab my notes.
Energy exchange.
Yeah.
I love that. What did you say?
I'd listened to the shamanic episode.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
she
did?
did totally talk about that too, and I was just like, "That's it. That's what I'm trying to say."
Yeah, and
Great.
I was telling Melissa how funny it was after we spoke with you, how well I thought it blended in, because Melissa, one of her big questions to you is also the neuroscience behind it. And so when you explain that to us, and you're going to explain it to all of us again, Laura also had a neuroscience explanation on how the brain works with the energy exchange and what that does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned in that episode about mirror neurons and how neurodiverse people don't have that. She also mentioned the alpha and the beta waves and the theta waves, right? And I actually did a research study in that in college, because I'm first and foremost like a big metalhead, right? I love loud rock music. And it's like I needed to I need to feel it in my chest, right? And like I have like major depressive disorder. I've got ADHD and like a lot of anxiety. I'm somewhere on the spectrum, right? Haven't been tested for it, but I definitely am neurodiverse in some way. So that has been a real game changer for me, just realizing who I am, what I am, and then understanding the science behind it. So in neurodiverse people, the alpha and the beta waves are reversed. So she talked about the alpha are in charge of relaxation, and then the other one, the beta waves, are in charge of focus. So as like neurodiverse people grow, their anxiety gets higher, their focus gets, a little bit less. So when I study, I've been able to kind of go through several different genres of music, to different styles of music, and kind of figure out what fits my mood. So for me, if I have, I'm not sure how to explain it, but like multitasking, studying to do, like if I'm reading, I'm taking notes, I'm highlighting, I'm doing all this other stuff, I have to keep track of several different things. Like I listen to instrumental metal because the rhythms are far more complex. So it just keeps my brain like it just kind of not resets my brain, but it helps me.
Kind of helps the other waves take over.
Yeah, because my brain, study music, I'll like start to get relaxed and like start to get tired, but I have to keep my attention up. So that helps me just kind of keep my focus going. So there's a lot.
So like if you're studying, you're going to play like AC/DC type stuff.
Instrument.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Not really. AC/DC is very.
He's like, I don't like AC/DC.
No, I love AC/DC.
I'm just kidding.
It's great motivational music for me. That's the one for me. That's a go-go music for me.
Okay, good.
But
you're cool, Sam. You're still cool.
I don't know a damn song.
So I'll throw out some bands for you. Animals of Leaders, Polyphia. These are all like instrumental metal bands. They're really
okay.
Like there's a lot of stuff. Polyphia, Polyphia. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to look these up and maybe I'll link them.
Please do. Yeah. Polyphia is amazing.
I've never heard of instrumental metal.
Mm-mm.
Are you talking like Juilliard stuff? Well, actually, wait. There's a band called Dream Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Are they instrumental?
They're not instrumental.
Not metal, but
They're considered prog rock, but they're not instrumental. They were probably one of the pioneers of the genre. Yeah, but they're incredible. Yeah,
look at you.
But a lot of the same style, like the very technical, like beats. Like it's not just like your pum pum pum, right? It's like da, 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 right?
Yeah, okay.
So it has a lot of that. So it's just like my neurons are just like go, right? So
I feel like we just got some scatting. I've never heard in a conversation go anyway.
I do that.
Oh, sorry.
People make fun of me. Or not make fun of me.
You start scatting.
No, but like my tattoo artist, she always cracks up. She's like, "You are just the funniest person," and I'm like, "I didn't say anything." So. Okay, visual funny story. So she did a sternum tattoo for me. And so when she's trying to make sure that the stencil is on right, she's like, all right, spread your chest, put them back together, lay down, spread your chest, put it back together. And every time I'm going, zoop, zoop. And she goes, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know.
You're like, because this is uncomfortable and I need something to like zoop. That's hilarious.
I love that. I do that a lot. Simon and I have a son named Simon.
Yeah, he does.
And so he's
cute.
autistic and he gets nonverbal under stressful situations, but he makes a lot of noise. So sometimes we'll just like sit back and forth and be like, boop, beep, beep, boop. Oh, you know, like just make noises, and we're just like, it's this whole conversation. Both the two of us are the only people going, yeah, I get it. But
you guys can understand each other through the noises.
Yeah. He makes some amazing noises. You may hear him now. He might be waking up and getting on his computer, but we'll see. Yeah, she's at mom's house, so she's
okay.
She has a job, so she's working this weekend. She's like, she likes to have the house to herself. She's just like, I like being at home, like having the rest. I was like, totally.
So where were we?
I know. Sorry, I took us out.
No, you're fine.
Swoop. That's where we were with the boobs.
But why were we talking about sounds? We were talking about neuro.
Oh yeah,
because
we were talking about
the instrumental.
Thank you. Bring us back, Brad.
Bring us back. So it goes both ways, right? You have that. That's what really helps me focus on work and like just keep me moving forward. And then just recently, I need to see if I can find it. My partner Kat sent me this link on Spotify, and it's a list of music at I think it's 145 beats per minute. And if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of the regular or the typical speed of speech. It's supposed to reset your ADHD brain, basically. So it's just like a way for your brain to go, to stop and just kind of like reset.
I need that.
Yeah, I can send it to you for sure.
Find it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll link it too.
There's a playlist that my therapist has me listen to when we're in a session, and it's called Dynamic Something or Another. And she's like, the sounds in the music of this playlist, it's to activate both sides of your brain so that your brain can work on what it's trying to work on, and you don't even have to talk.
Is that EMDR? Is she doing EMDR with you? With music?
No, it's brain spotting.
Oh, I've never done that. Do you know anything about that?
Not too much. I think that goes into the realm of like, what's it called? There's something called sound bathing. There's another whole genre outside of that, just like using energy. Like you have I think the podcast the other day mentioned like you have your chakras and your alignment and like the sounds coming over you and like the energy, and like that's kind of what that is. So you have these they're called sound bowls, and you can just make this creates a certain frequency. Yeah, you have one. Yeah. So you create a certain frequency, and like it resonates somewhere within your body, and you can kind of fine tune where your your energy and stuff like that. So really cool stuff. I'd love to get into that more, but
it's like living proof that these abstract things are. I mean, I read that they can anatomically change you. There's studies like the music and the therapy that you get through the music therapy. It's like you can actually change.
Yeah, we work with a couple of clients that had strokes, and so their speech was Yo, put me on the spot and like I forget the parts of the brain, but like, they're
Affected.
I'm blanking. But anyway, the speech part was interrupted, so they had really difficult time producing speech. Like they could understand it, they knew what they wanted to say, but it was just not being produced. So when we use
Is it the
music, like
hippocampus?
highlights the entire. No, it's not the hippocampus. It's the Broca's area
Okay.
of your speech
Oh.
center. The Broca's, yeah, Broca's aphasia.
There you go.
So when we use music, it kind of highlights the entire brain. So your neurons are going from like a processing or technical terms. I'm horrible at this, but anyway, like they'll fire and there's a blockage and they can't get the words out.
Okay. Mhm.
So when you use music, it kind of highlights the brain. So these neurons kind of have another path of highlighted regions of the brain where there's like, oh, I go this way. So your brain, in a way, rewires itself to find new paths to like complete the tasks that they're trying to do. A big saying we always had in school, like every semester, every couple of months, it was like the neurons that fire together.
Okay, that's so cute.
So yeah, so you can YouTube like a lot of speech things with music therapy. Where people can't speak, but they can sing, right? So on a neurocognitive level, it's really fun where you sit with somebody and you try to get them to use language to take care of their everyday tasks, like needing to go to the bathroom. So if they can't speak it, you can sit with them and you just create a beat, like you create your steady beat and be like, okay, let's sync up with this beat. And then you just practice with them. I want to go to the bathroom, right? So you just make it musical, and like that catches a lot better because your whole brain is like firing, and you're just like, okay, and like so then they can start doing that. And so the same thing with Parkinson's, you put a rhythmic component to it, and this is all on like all these things are on YouTube. You can YouTube all of them. You see this man with Parkinson's. He's walking, he's stumbling, and he's like having his walker. And it's like, okay, let's put in this musical stimulus, like we've got a nice steady beat going, and like they will sync up with that beat and start walking a lot better. So through music therapy, the goal is to kind of reduce that musical stimulus, the external stimulus, to make that kind of an internal thing. So they always have this beat so they can kind of sync up their movement for the speech with that.
Oh, so many things are clicking.
Yeah?
Yeah. So first off, while you're talking, it reminded me of a interview that I had listened to with Billie Eilish and someone was interviewing her. And so she actually has Tourette's. And the only time she doesn't stutter and show signs of Tourette's is when she's on stage singing.
That's so interesting. I was thinking the same thing. My dad said there's this guy who used to do like comedic songs.
Yeah.
Like, his name was Ray Stevens, and they're actually kind of inappropriate sometimes when you hear them nowadays. But anyway, my dad met him in real life, and he said that he stutters so bad, but on the stage, he's like talking so fast like an auctioneer. Music is a magical tool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Magic.
Billie Eilish. I did not know she had
and then the other thing that clicked, when I get super, super anxious and like I'm overstimulated and start to feel like I'm about to have a panic attack, I'll put in my earbuds on this like steady sound. And so then it like, that's all I hear. And so I can keep walking or, in the crowd or whatever we're doing. And then I start to like calm back down because I'm just listening to that one sound in my...
That's amazing. So you're already having music therapy happening.
Yeah, I didn't really realize it. I just kind of did that because I was like, all right, I'm about to pass out. So we got to calm down.
And you're lucky enough to know like, hey, this works for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe off topic, but just out of curiosity, you were raised by missionaries. Is that still the kind of lifestyle? And are you still a part of a church?
No. I'm not. Yeah. That's an interesting journey too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, tell me.
Oh yeah. So when it started, I'd always kind of viewed the church as a bit of a business because I was always there, at church, and I was there for the business meetings and all this other stuff. And like people would come up and be like, well, my interpretation of the word is like, is this, so you're wrong. And like, it was just like a lot of fighting. It's like, but we also have to, take the money, like what trips are we going to take? What are we going to fit, And I was like, it's just so much bureaucracy and so much like arguing between what people think is this and that. But on an emotional level, like it just never sat with me. And my parents were just like, have faith in them, trust them, test them, do all this other stuff. And like, I never felt anything, And so in my mind, it was just really it was just a really limiting experience because like I lived in this box, kind of like school. It was like, oh, I am meant to go to school because that's what my mom loves to say, traditional wisdom or something like that. She's like, that's what that dictates. Like, you know, that's what this is. Like, you go to school because that's what you do. You get married because that's what you do. You have kids because that's what you do. So I never questioned anything in life, especially these past couple of years. I've been on an amazing journey of just completely opening up and just being like, I'm just going to like discover myself completely.
This is full circle.
It is. Can I ask at what age that hit?
How old are you now?
I'm 45. Yeah. It was probably in my 30s. Like I always I'd stopped going to church, I guess, after I moved out. So somewhere in my 20s. And I just was not very active. I didn't question it. I was just like, yeah, sure, there's a God, whatever, you know. But I think in probably my later 30s, like my ex, Amanda, and I, like we kind of went on this journey together. We started kind of questioning our beliefs and things like that. She was raised Catholic, so she was kind of in that same boat. And she really helped me a lot. She just kind of, she's bolder than I was at the time. She's like, question it. Like, let's step out of this box. Let's see what they're.
She is not afraid to look at things and face them and try to learn from them, isn't she?
Yeah, she absolutely is. So she really kind of pulled me out of that box and like kind of led this journey of questioning things.
I think it's so cool how one, our intro went right on into this, and two, our previous episode went right on into this. I know. You can't make this shit up.
No,
like it just.
I feel like it. Honestly, I feel like it was inspirational, and I feel like the things that we're putting out into the universe are coming back to us. And I think having you on, it was meant to be.
It's just adding to the story. We're just creating a story.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful. Yeah, thank you for having me. By the way, speaking of which, I've been listening to several of the episodes that you guys put on, and when I was listening to the shamanic episode last night, I had to giggle a little bit because you were like, "Oh, Melissa Walker," and I was like, I don't think I've heard an episode where you did not. And I'm like, you mentioned Melissa Walker as much as Melissa Walker mentions horses.
That's hilarious.
It was like,
I guess she.
Do you know Melissa?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
She played a big role in my life, right? That's interesting because I didn't notice that. She is amazing.
She got me started on my therapy.
Oh,
she started it all. I love it. I'm like, I tell everybody, like, go to therapy. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. As everyone should,
right? Yeah. Don't wait until it's already too hard.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The way the harder it gets.
Yep. I love it.
So,
well, thanks so much for waking up to join us this early.
That's right. It's like 9 a.m. where he is. Yeah, we appreciate you.
It was really fun.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys too. This was awesome.
Thanks for listening to us. Like you actually heard some of our stuff. I think you're our first guest that's listened to pre-episodes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good stuff. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's really good.
Well, we'll be in touch.
We will. It was good to talk to you. Good to see your face. If you liked what you heard today, hit that like button or the subscribe button or whatever button it is that you have.
Just hit it. To continue this conversation with us, join the Skirts Up Show on what is it again?
Well, we have Facebook, we have YouTube,
and Pinterest.
And no, we do not have a Pinterest, but we have Instagram.
You knew what I meant.
Rate and review. Rate and review.